something reportedly happened inside Windsor that would be almost impossible to imagine in an institution this old. According to this account, Charles arrived expecting a routine discussion about future transition arrangements. Waiting for him were William and Catherine, with a plain cream folder on the table. Inside was reportedly a proposal stating that when Charles's reign ends, the working household surrounding his wife would end with it. No automatic staff, no inherited offices, no separate communications operation, and no guaranteed royal headquarters. But the first page was only the beginning. Subscribe now, because the second page changes everything. The meeting was reportedly scheduled as an administrative conversation. Charles allegedly expected discussion about diaries, staffing, patronages, offices, and the ordinary arrangements that accompany a future transition. Instead, William and Catherine were already seated in the room. Catherine reportedly opened the folder and turned it toward the king. The wording was described as deliberately cold and institutional. It allegedly established one central principle: when a new reign begins, there should be one sovereign and one principal working household. The proposal reportedly did not say that Camilla would lose her title or disappear. It targeted something more specific: the machinery surrounding a royal household, that distinction became important because a royal household is not simply a residence. It includes private secretaries, communications staff, diary managers, advisors, administrative teams, and the people who organize official appearances. According to the account, William and Catherine believed those resources should belong to the reigning sovereign rather than automatically continuing around a surviving spouse. Camilla could remain a respected member of the royal family and continue her charitable interests, but the staff and institutional structure supporting her public role would not automatically survive Charles's reign. The proposal therefore separated Camilla's personal position from the machinery that made her a working royal. The idea reportedly began after Catherine examined how previous royal transitions had worked. One example immediately stood out. After George VI died, his widow became the Queen Mother and continued living at Clarence House with her own household. She remained publicly important for decades while Elizabeth II reigned. Catherine allegedly questioned whether that model should automatically continue into another generation. The circumstances were different, the relationships were different, and the monarchy had changed. Her concern was reportedly structural rather than personal. If a surviving consort automatically retained a household, staff, offices, and influence, could that create a second center of authority beside the new sovereign? William reportedly understood the danger immediately. Any proposal affecting Camilla could easily be interpreted as revenge connected to Diana. William had spent much of his adult life avoiding that narrative, and he knew the press could turn an institutional decision into a personal family war. According to the account, Catherine offered a solution. If the rule was going to exist, she would accept it herself. If William died before her and George became king, Catherine reportedly would not expect her own independent royal court. She would remain George's mother, continue her personal causes, and retain her dignity, but the institutional machinery would belong to the new king. That reportedly changed William's entire understanding of the proposal. Until Catherine included herself, the rule could easily be portrayed as something aimed at Camilla. Once Catherine accepted the same restriction, it became a principle for future generations. The account says the wording was then deliberately stripped of personal references. Camilla was not named. Diana was not mentioned. There were no accusations and no demand that anyone leave a residence immediately. The proposed rule simply established that when one reign ends, its working household ends too. A former consort could remain visible and respected, but the new sovereign would control the institution, Clarence House, reportedly became the most sensitive practical issue. The residence has deep royal history and was associated with the Queen Mother before becoming Charles and Camilla's London home. But the story argues that a royal residence can become more than a private house when staff, meetings, communications, and official diaries operate from it. If a former consort continued using such a structure indefinitely, it could effectively become a second royal headquarters. According to the proposal, nothing should transfer automatically. The next sovereign would decide what happens to the residence, the staff, and the office. The previous reign would not determine the next one. Charles reportedly reacted with disbelief when he understood the consequences. According to the account, he asked whether the proposal was really about Camilla. William allegedly explained that it would affect her, but was not written specifically for her. Catherine reportedly emphasized the distinction. Camilla would remain family. Her personal standing would remain. Her charitable interests could continue. What would end automatically was the institutional structure connected to Charles's reign. The account describes Charles asking specifically about Clarence House. That question reportedly exposed the emotional weight behind the proposal, because the residence represented decades of royal family history as well as Charles's own working life. The story then reaches its most dramatic point. Charles allegedly asked that Camilla hear the proposal directly. When she entered the room, she reportedly found Charles sitting silently while William and Catherine remained nearby with the folder open. William explained that the proposal was about the future structure of the monarchy, not about humiliating her or removing her from the family. According to the account, Camilla would remain a member of the royal family and could continue public work when invited by the reigning monarch. But her husband's institutional machinery would not automatically become hers after his death. That distinction reportedly changed the atmosphere completely. Then, Camilla allegedly saw the second page. According to the source account, this was the part that made clear the proposal was not designed only for her. At the top was reportedly a short principle followed by names and future situations. Camilla's name appeared, but Catherine's did too. Future consorts were reportedly covered as well. The rule was therefore presented as universal. When a sovereign dies, the institutional household connected to that reign ends unless the new monarch deliberately recreates or continues an arrangement. That meant Camilla was not being singled out. Catherine was voluntarily placing herself under exactly the same rule. The proposal reportedly went even further by applying the principle to future generations. If George eventually became king after William's death, Catherine would not automatically receive an independent court simply because she had once been queen. The same would apply to future royal spouses who had not even entered the family yet. According to the account, the purpose was to prevent precedent from becoming automatic authority. A former consort could remain important, respected, and publicly active, but the institution would belong to the current sovereign. In that sense, the proposal was presented as a boundary between family loyalty and constitutional power. Princess Anne was reportedly consulted because of her long experience within the royal family and her reputation for concentrating on duty rather than palace drama. According to the story, William wanted to know whether ending the traditional Queen Mother style arrangement would weaken the monarchy. The response described in the account was essentially that every reign needs room to establish itself. A former consort could remain part of national life without operating a competing court. That perspective reportedly strengthened William's confidence. The argument was no longer about Camilla, Diana, or old family disagreements. It was about whether a new king should inherit the previous reign's institutional structure. The most striking part of Catherine's position was reportedly the sacrifice she accepted for herself. She allegedly told William that if he died first and George became king, she would not ask her son to maintain a separate court around her. She would remain his mother, continue meaningful charitable work, and attend public events when invited. But she would not automatically inherit staff, offices, communications machinery, or institutional authority. According to the story, that statement was what finally made the proposal impossible to dismiss as revenge against Camilla. Catherine was voluntarily accepting the same future she was proposing for every surviving royal consort. Whether every detail of this alleged Windsor meeting is accurate cannot be established from the source alone. But the story's central question is powerful. Should a former consort automatically inherit the machinery of a previous reign? Or should every new sovereign begin with their own working household? The proposal described here chooses the second option. Camilla would remain family, while Catherine would eventually face the same principle herself. That is why the story becomes bigger than one royal marriage. It is about succession, institutional power, and where personal family status ends. What do you think? Should a former consort keep an independent royal household? Comment below and subscribe for more royal stories.